So is fat our friend or foe? Well, in just a moment, Dr. Richard Stein, a cardiologist at NYU Langone Medical Center, will give us his takeaway on that. But first, let's return to our Florida studios where our deputy health editor, Nick Tate, is standing by. So Nick, tell me, could fat actually be good for us?
Well, actually, there are certain fats that are good for you. You know, we've been told, most of us have been told all our lives that we should be eating no fat or low fat, that the best way to avoid being fat is to just avoid eating fat. But it's really not so simple. The latest research shows that, in fact, there are some fats that are good for you. Now, we're not talking about the fats that are in donuts and fried foods, but we're talking about fats that are in things like the Mediterranean diet, olive oils, fish, certain cuts of beef, nuts. And knowing the difference between the good fats and the bad fats is really the key.
All right, so to get some insight on knowing the difference between the good fat and bad fat, we're going to invite our guest to join us. He's a cardiologist from NYU Langone Medical Center, Dr. Richard Stein. It's nice to have you with us.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
So do people realize that there is a good fat versus a bad fat? I thought they were all bad fats.
So clearly, fats like in fish oil and in vegetable fats and nuts are fats that are not thought to promote atherosclerosis or heart disease. In fact, they are felt to be protective in some regard. Fats that are saturated fats and animal fats and whole milk were traditionally thought to be a bad fat. I think we're beginning to understand that that area between good fats and bad fats is becoming very blurred.
So
and small amounts of appropriate fats from milk, small amounts of appropriate fats from meat and from fowl are absolutely part of a heart-healthy diet.
So how do health consumers differentiate? What should they look for, let's say, on labels or on the side of the milk carton when it comes to fat content?
So I think what we've learned from the last 15 years, where we've taken fat out of many of the foods and provided fat-free versions of it, skim milk, yogurts, and things like that, that actually what we've done is by taking fat out of diets, we've actually increased calories, and America has gotten very fat on a low-fat diet.
Really?
And the incidence of heart disease has not gone down, and the precursors of heart disease like diabetes and high blood pressure have actually gone up. So I think now what is going to replace the good fat, bad fats concept has been not what you don't eat, but what you do eat. Okay, and what you should be eating is a lot of fruits and vegetables, a lot of nuts, more whole grain than processed grain. Chewing a toasted piece of white bread will get more sugar into your bloodstream quicker than will actually supping a teaspoon of sugar.
Let's talk about sugar and salt, because I understand that fat-free foods actually have a higher content of those two ingredients than perhaps just regular food.
So if you take fat out, then you need to put something in. So the only two things, the diet is really consisted of carbohydrates, which are sugars, fats, and proteins. All right? And then we have some things that you eat but don't digest, like fibers. Okay? And largely the problem has been is that when we've taken fat out of the diet, we've added materials that are starches or sugars that go into the diet. So we've stimulated the development of diabetes, perhaps at an earlier age. We've increased calorie consumption. Americans now, as opposed to 10 years ago, are consuming about 500 more calories a day than they were before, and they're not doing 500 calories worth of exercise to take it off each day. So we're becoming a fat country, and we're going to be seeing tremendous amounts of these diseases. There's a fear, in all honesty, among physicians who deal with preventive cardiology like I do, that this next generation of children may not live as heart attack free and as long as did their parents.
Boy, that is disturbing.
Yes.
That is disturbing. But we're so health conscious in this country. We're always trying the new fad, the latest diet. Are they good for us,
So-
even if they have immediate results?
Right. So most of them are not particularly good for us. I think, and it's hard to bunch them all into one category, but selecting a particular food, some herb from South America, something from the Hawaiian off island, some chocolate off the coast of South
Eliminating
America.
all carbs or all
Right,
fat,
right.
eliminating anything.
You know, are really silly diets, okay? They're marketed, I'm being benign when I say the people who are marketing them basically believe in them, as opposed to are just interested in fame and money. But I think what Americans should eat is a diet that people who tend to live on the ocean and the Mediterranean areas, where they have fewer heart attacks than we do. And in a very non-fancy way, they're eating a lot more vegetables, a lot more fruits, a lot more fish. And it's why, for instance, in France, where they have a fair amount of animal fat in their diet, they smoke much more than we do. And they have lower incidences of heart attack because they're eating much more fruits and vegetables. So it really is a little bit more of what you eat. And you should eat as many natural foods as possible.
One thing that we need to talk about, because we hear about it all the time, is our triglycerides.
Right.
Now, is this like the cholesterol where you can have high numbers and low numbers and they mean different things?
So the triglycerides are really simple, okay? You eat foods that contain fats. The fats are broken down into small fatty acids, and then they must travel around the body. They must go to the muscles where they're used to burn energy and make you be able to run and climb and do things like that. And they're also stored in fat cells, which are what make us fat when we store too many things in fat cells. And there is no question in my mind that fats are essential and important, but too much of them obviously is a big problem. Now, the triglyceride, okay? One little 3-carbon molecule called glycerol has 3 attachments on it, and that's the tri. And to each of those attachments, we attach a fatty acid, and that's what a triglyceride is. 3 fatty acids and 1 glycerol molecule, and that's how the body moves all that fat around your body to where it can be stored or where it can be used.
So it sounds like we just need to be aware of what we're putting in our mouth. But a steak every once in a while is not going to kill us. Dr.
Absolutely
Richard
not.
Stein, thank you so much for the great advice.